You ever walk into a room and feel every eye judging you, sizing you up, like they've already decided who you are before you even open your mouth? That's what happened to Sam Carter, a guy who pushed a mop for a living at Willow Creek Academy, a fancy private school in upstate New York where the parents drove cars that cost more than his house. But Sam, he wasn't just any janitor. He was the guy who changed everything for a kid named Liam Harper. And let me tell you, it's a story that'll hit you right in the gut. Picture this, a fifth-grade classroom, all polished wood and big windows, kids in crisp uniforms, their parents' names on buildings downtown. Liam, this quiet 10-year-old with messy brown hair and a backpack that looked too heavy for his skinny shoulders, was hunched over his math worksheet, his pencil shaking like he was afraid it'd betray him. His mom, Claire Harper, was the kind of woman who walked into a room and made the air feel tighter, CEO of Harper Dynamics, a tech empire that could buy half the city. She was all sharp suits, sharper eyes, and a voice that could cut glass. That day, she was standing at the front of the room, arms crossed, watching Liam struggle with a math problem in front of the whole class. The teacher, Mrs. Grayson, a woman with a smile like a lemon slice, called out, "Come on, Liam, it's not rocket science." And the room erupted in giggles, kids whispering behind their hands. Liam's face went red, his eyes glued to the paper like he could will the numbers to make sense. Sam was there, cleaning the windows, his faded blue jumpsuit blending into the background like he was part of the furniture. He moved slow, deliberate, his rags squeaking against the glass, but he was listening. As he passed Liam's desk, he leaned down, barely audible, and whispered, "Look at the second number again, kid." Flipped the sign. Liam blinked, scribbled something, and just like that, the answer clicked. The whole class went quiet, like someone hit pause on a movie. Claire's head snapped towards Sam, her eyes narrowing like she'd just caught a thief. "Excuse me," she said, her voice low but sharp enough to make the kids flinch. "Since when does the janitor teach math?" The room laughed again, but this time it was nervous, like they weren't sure who the joke was on. Sam didn't look up, just kept wiping the window, steady as ever. But Liam? He looked at Sam like he'd just seen a superhero unmask. Now, Claire wasn't used to being upstaged, especially not by a guy who emptied trash cans for a living. She'd spent thousands on tutors, flown in experts from Boston, even switched Liam's school twice to fix his math grades. Nothing worked. And here was Sam, with one whisper, doing what all her money couldn't. She stormed out, her heels clicking like gunshots on the polished floor, leaving a trail of whispers from the other parents in the hallway. They knew her, Claire Harper, the woman who closed deals with a handshake and a stare that could make grown men sweat. But at Willow Creek, she was just Liam's mom, and Liam was the kid who couldn't pass a test to save his life. The next day, Liam found Sam in the science lab, scrubbing marker stains off a counter. He hesitated, clutching a crumpled worksheet, then stepped forward. "Mr. Sam," he said, his voice small. "Can you check this one?" Sam set down his rag, took the paper, and pointed to a number. "Make that a positive," he said, handing it back. Liam's face lit up like he'd won the lottery, scribbling the fix, the answer falling into place. A teacher, Mrs. Foley, caught the moment and frowned, her tight bun practically vibrating with disapproval. "Liam, don't bother the staff," she snapped. Liam froze, but Sam just gave him a nod, like he was saying, "You got this," and went back to cleaning. That nod, it stuck with Liam, like a lifeline in a storm. But the storm was brewing. At the parent-teacher meeting, Claire was front and center, her arms crossed, her chin high like she owned the room. The other parents, real estate moguls, tech bros, trust fund types, buzzed with the kind of stress you get when your kids' test scores are your social currency. Mrs. Grayson was droning on about college prep for fifth graders, but Claire wasn't listening. She was still fuming about Sam. She leaned toward Mrs. Kendall, a real estate shark with a laugh that could shatter glass, and muttered, "Can you believe it? A janitor thinking he can teach my son better than the professionals." Mrs. Kendall's eyes gleamed with gossip. "A janitor teaching? That's a laugh," she said, loud enough for heads to turn. A tech guy, Mr. Vaughn, chimed in. "What's next? He's going to lecture us on quantum physics?" The room roared, and Claire let it happen, her lips curling like she'd won a round. Sam was there, mopping up a coffee spill in the back, his face blank, like he'd heard it all before. He didn't flinch, didn't argue, just kept moving, slow and steady. But Liam, sitting nearby with his math book, heard every word. His hands gripped the pages, his knuckles white, his jaw tight like he was holding back a scream. Another parent, Mr. Ellis, a lawyer with a smirk that never quit, leaned in at the coffee station. "Scrubbing floors doesn't make you a genius," he said, glancing at Sam. The group laughed, their voices bouncing off the walls. Sam paused, just for a second, then kept wiping, his hands steady as ever. Liam flipped a page so hard it tore, his eyes burning. Things got worse. The advanced math class was a pressure cooker. Kids groomed for Harvard since kindergarten, their pencils scratching like a race. Liam was drowning, his test papers coming back with red marks, the other kids whispering, "Still failing, Harper." During a test, he sat frozen, his pencil hovering, his eyes wet with frustration. Mrs. Grayson stood at the front, arms folded, her voice sharp. "Time's up, Liam." He dropped his pencil, a small sob escaping. The room went quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like a spotlight burning your skin. Sam was in the hallway, pushing a cart of cleaning supplies, when he glanced through the window and saw Liam's shoulders shaking. He didn't hesitate, walked in, picked up a piece of chalk, and wrote 3 symbols on the board: a fraction, an exponent, an arrow to the next step. Then he walked out, silent as a ghost. Liam looked up, grabbed his pencil, and started writing, the problem coming together like puzzle pieces. When he raised his hand and said, "I got it," his voice was shaky but clear. Mrs. Grayson checked his work, her mouth tightening like she didn't know whether to be impressed or pissed. In the staff lounge, Mrs. Grayson wasn't happy. "That janitor's got no business in my classroom," she said, slamming her coffee mug down. Mr. Tate, a science teacher who loved gossip, leaned in. "What's he trying to prove? That he's smarter than us?" Another teacher, Ms. Brooks, smirked. "Maybe he's just desperate for attention." Sam was outside, restocking paper towels, his jaw tight but his hands steady. Liam, passing by, heard it all, his face crumpling like he'd been hit. Claire got a call that afternoon in her sleek office, the city skyline glittering behind her. "Your son solved a problem today, Mrs. Grayson said, her voice clipped, after the janitor wrote on the board. Claire's grip on the phone tightened. She didn't say thanks, just hung up, her mind racing. Who was this guy? Thinking he could step into her world. She grabbed her purse and headed to the school, her heels clicking like a countdown. She found Sam in the hallway, emptying a trash can, Liam nearby doing homework. "Why are you trying to play hero with my son?" she said, her voice low, sharp enough to draw blood. A passing coach, Mr. Reed, with a fake smile and a habit of kissing up to parents, laughed. What janitor wouldn't want a shot at some attention? Liam's head snapped up, his face twisting. Sam didn't look at Claire or the coach, just kept tying the trash bag, then turned to her, his voice calm but firm. "I saw a kid who needed to believe in himself, that's all." Liam's eyes locked on Sam, wide and bright, like he was holding on to every word. Claire froze when Liam spoke up, his voice small but steady. "He's helping me, Mom. Why can't you see that?" The hallway went quiet, the weight of his words hanging heavy. The next morning, Liam was in the library, surrounded by bookshelves, his fingers smudged with pencil lead. A group of older kids walked by, led by a punk named Tyler, all swagger and expensive sneakers. "Still need the janitor to hold your hand, Harper?" he sneered. The others laughed, their voices echoing. Liam's hands froze, his shoulders hunching. Sam, restocking nearby, slid a slip of paper toward him with a single equation, a hint for the problem he was stuck on. Liam grabbed it, his eyes lighting up as he worked through it, ignoring Tyler's scoff. That night, Mr. Tate, the nosy science teacher, stayed late, digging into Sam's employee file. What he found made his jaw drop. Sam wasn't just a janitor. He'd been a math prodigy, publishing papers at 25, cited by professors at MIT, until his wife died in a crash 6 years ago. He'd walked away from it all to raise his daughter, Ellie, now 5. Mr. Tate printed the file, his hands shaking. The next morning, he caught Claire in the parking lot, her driver waiting. "You need to see this," he said, handing her the file. She skimmed it, her eyes narrowing at words like prodigy and abandoned career. "Why didn't he say anything?" she muttered, more to herself. Mr. Tate shrugged. "Some people don't need to prove themselves." Liam was struggling again, the final exam looming like a guillotine. He studied late, his desk a mess of papers and empty chip bags. Claire watched from the doorway, her arms crossed, worry creasing her face. She'd always believed in systems, tutors, schedules, control, but they were failing. She thought of Sam, of the file, of Liam's face when he solved a problem. The day of the exam, the classroom was tense, Mrs. Grayson handing out tests with her usual sour look. Liam's leg bounced under the desk, Claire pacing in the hallway, ignoring her buzzing phone. When the bell rang, Liam handed in his test, his face pale but steady. Mrs. Grayson graded it, her pen pausing over a complex problem he'd nailed. She called over Mr. Tate, pointing. "This is advanced," she said, her voice sharp. "No way he did this alone." Mr. Tate glanced at Liam, half joking. "Think the janitor fed him the answers?" Liam's face fell, his hands twisting his backpack straps. Sam, mopping outside, overheard, his grip tightening on the mop, but his eyes met Liam's through the window, steady, saying, "You did this." An hour later, Mrs. Grayson called Claire into her office. Liam passed, top 10%, she said, her voice flat, like she couldn't believe it. Claire's mouth opened, no words coming out. Liam stood in the doorway, his smile small but real. "I did it, Mom," he whispered. Claire nodded, her throat tight, realizing she'd been wrong about everything. The next day, Claire found Sam in the courtyard, sweeping leaves, Liam kicking a soccer ball nearby. She approached, her steps slow, her voice softer. "Mr. Carter, I owe you an apology." Sam stopped, his hands resting on the broom, his eyes steady. The other parents, Mrs. Kendall, Mr. Vaughn, Mr. Ellis, watched, their chatter dying. Mrs. Kendall muttered, "A CEO apologizing to a janitor? That's rich." Before Claire could go on, Liam ran over, holding up a new math problem, his eyes shining. "Mr. Sam, check this." Sam scanned it, pointed to a line. "Flip that fraction, you're there." Liam grinned, scribbling the fix. Claire watched, her hands loosening on her purse. "I never believed in my son," she said, her voice catching, "and I didn't believe in you. Who are you, really?" Sam smiled faintly. "Just a dad who thinks every kid deserves a shot." Liam shouted, "Mr. Sam, I got it," and threw his arms around him. Sam patted his shoulder, gentle but firm. Claire straightened. "You can't just stay a janitor, be Liam's mentor." The courtyard went quiet, even the kids staring. Sam shook his head. "I'll guide him, but not for money, because he believes in himself now." Claire stood there, her arrogance gone, seeing Sam for the first time. The fallout was swift. Mrs. Grayson's contract wasn't renewed after parents complained about her harshness. Mrs. Kendall's real estate deal tanked after a viral post called out her snobbery. Mr. Vaughn lost a sponsorship, his smirk wiped clean. Mr. Ellis was dropped from the parent board. Ms. Foley faced a review for favoritism. No drama, just consequences catching up. Claire and Liam walked out _Tim Kung Gay's system. Out of the school that day, side by side, Liam talking a mile a minute about his exam, Claire listening, really listening, for the first time in years. Sam watched them go, his broom in hand, a quiet pride in his step, leaves crunching under his feet. "Look, we've all been judged, written off, felt like we didn't belong." Claire learned the hard way, but she learned. Liam found his spark, and Sam? He didn't need applause. He just needed to know he made a difference. So what's your take? Ever been underestimated like Sam? Or had someone believe in you when no one else did? Drop a comment, share your story. Let's talk about what makes a community lift each other up or tear each other down. If this hit you, give it a like, maybe subscribe. It keeps stories like this coming. Where are you watching from? Let's keep this conversation going.